Hey everyone, Kevin here with my 1, 2, 3 cents, and happy Cinco de Mayo. And because it is the Cinco de Mayo holiday, like a lot of other websites, including WWE.com, they beat me to the punch. Going to look at some of my favorite luchadors and Mexican-American wrestlers who have come up through the last several years. Obviously, number one on my list is Eddie Guerrero. The late, great Eddie Guerrero, who died back in 2005. It's hard to believe he's been gone as long as he has now. But he had such an impact on the world of professional wrestling. And I'm going to admit that, early on I wasn't a huge Eddie Guerrero fan. Although he did, I really took note of him back, I guess it was probably about 1994, 1995. Saw a match with him and Chris Benoit on ECW, the original ECW, and was blown away by it. Eddie Guerrero definitely was one of those guys who could get in the ring, and no matter who he was in there with, you were pretty much going to get a good match out of it. He wrestled in WCW right after that ECW stint, and I felt like was kind of misused. Eddie and Chris and Jericho, there was a handful of those guys that were kind of lumped into that group that would never really break that glass ceiling. And it wasn't until they all moved to the WWE that they kind of broke new ground and were getting into main events, and many of them of that group held the world title or the WWE Championship, including Eddie Guerrero, who beat Brock Lesnar for the title. And unfortunately only had a brief run as the champion, lost it to JBL, which I thought was kind of a travesty of misjustice, but, it was what it was. And teaming up with Chavo, I enjoyed Los Guerreros and their feud with, I think it was Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit and Edge and Rey Mysterio, I believe, another great luchador, another great Mexican wrestler that we have seen and just recently was suspended by WWE. He hopefully will be back at some point. But Eddie Guerrero, definitely on the top of my list, had a great match with Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 23, which was actually his last WrestleMania. He died later that year. Those two had a pretty good feud going on. They really impressed me with that matchup. Another one of my fondest memories of Eddie would be at WrestleMania 20 when he had successfully defended the title against Kurt Angle in another great matchup, and then he came out to celebrate with Chris Benoit after Benoit won the world title. So that image still kind of burned into my brain some, what's it been, 4 or 8 years now? Gosh, time flies. Anyway, but Eddie Guerrero, one of the many. Rey Mysterio, as I mentioned, Chavo even, before he kind of went into that obscure, I think he was better off in WCW. I don't think he ever really caught on in the WWE. And also want to mention La Parka, the guys that you see on AAA now. And I do watch a little bit of AAA. I haven't watched it in quite some time, but La Parka always entertained me in WCW. Conan was fairly decent as well. And El Generico, the generic luchador, got to see him wrestle live and in person with AAPW at Main Event, still available on DVD. He wrestled Pac in a great match as well. And El Generico really is one of the best in the world right now, in my opinion, on the indie scene, definitely. And I think that he would be an asset to either TNA or WWE if the company would use him properly. Also watched him wrestle Sarah Del Rey not too very long ago at a Chikara show, and they put on an amazing matchup as well. So just a few of my favorite luchadors and Mexican-American wrestlers who have broken through and made their way into our lives. So would like to hear what you think.